Coach Tom Ryan, welcome to the Mindset Advantage podcast. I'm so excited for this conversation today. I've been looking into and researching you for quite some time. I love your book. I'm really excited for the impact that you're having on your community, and I'm excited to have you on the show today. Welcome.
Hey, great to be with you.
You talk in your book about the idea of chosen suffering versus unchosen suffering. The book is titled Chosen Suffering: in Becoming Elite in Life and in Leadership. I'd love to start the conversation, Coach, of what do you think most people misunderstand about being chosen and unchosen when it comes to suffering and the overall value of it? What do most people get wrong?
Yeah, so I mean, we know that progress is greater in struggle than no struggle, right? But that's undeniable. So I didn't always view life in two ways: chosen, unchosen, struggling. Right? It wasn't like as a kid, I'm like, oh, I'm going to choose the struggling. I fell in love with wrestling. I fell in love with wrestling, and I fell in love, at a young age. I never fell in love with it at a young age, thanks to some really great leaders that knew this principle, and all I did was follow their lead. So I would go to this summer camp. It was a month over the summer. It was 4 workouts a day. It was incredibly intense. It was incredibly hard, and it was run by a former Army Ranger, Jay Robinson. He's actually Minnesota head wrestling coach. So the
All
Minnesota head
right.
wrestling coach was one of my. He was the man. I mean, he was like my one of my heroes growing up, and he put on these camps that were really hard. And never in the midst of it did I think I'm choosing suffering, right? It wasn't until I dealt with true unchosen suffering that I tagged what I was doing, the hard things I was doing, as chosen suffering. And that was when, we lost our 5-year-old son to a massive heart attack at the dinner table. So chosen suffering are just the things that we choose to do, that are hard. Some of them are really good for us. Some of them are not so good for us. So chosen suffering is, listen, if we can't put down the bottle, addiction, right? Um, Obviously choosing, to run another 2 miles when you're tired at mile 5, but you go another 2 or 3. That's chosen suffering. So there's a lot of things that we do. Some are good for us, some not. But chosen suffering is one type of suffering. Yeah, I chose it. And then there's unchosen suffering, which are all the things in our life that we don't ask for, and we're forced to manage our way through them. And the beauty of sport, right, the beauty of particularly wrestling, is that you learn how to suffer in a safe environment. You learn the value of suffering in a safe environment, where the worst thing that happened to you is you lose. Right? That's a pretty safe environment to grow in. And then, again, the gift of sport is that we take those learnings from a safe environment, and we move into the world with that knowledge. So that's chosen, unchosen. That's kind of the foundation of the book. The book's kind of right a play on, and I know this isn't about the book. It's kind of a play on, I really never thought about unchosen or chosen until the heartache that, shook our house in 2004.
We have a lot of coaches that tune in to this podcast, especially this series titled Coaching Beyond the Scoreboard. I'm curious, if you're not in a sport, what would your advice be for the adults in the room to choose suffering? What could that look like if we're not on the mats or we're not in a sport anymore? Our glory days are
Yeah.
behind us. What could suffering look like as a coach?
Yeah. So, my competitive days are over, right? From a personal, competition standpoint. Obviously, my team competes, but I don't compete. And I think one thing that coaches, I think, is really important is that in the midst, our job is so other focused. We are in our positions to bring God's best out in His people, right? That's the ultimate goal for us, right? Is to help. God says, "I made you in my image." Now our job is to fulfill that. And that is a tough challenge. And coaches are critically important in that. So, but in the midst of helping others, we can lose ourselves. You hear a lot of coaches, they win many championships, but their marriages fall apart. You got coaches that are really successful, and their children are raised by everybody but them. So I think the first thing is well, first it's hard to lead anybody higher than you can yourself. So it's just really focusing on you. And chosen suffering was like today after our practice, for me it was 20 minutes at 250 watts on the bike. It's 10 minutes of sit-ups. It's a bunch of legs. My legs are weak, 10 minutes of legs, and I'm done. It doesn't need this long, drawn out thing. But I think every time I'm on the bike and my heart rate goes to 165, I become a baby. I become a big baby. I become this soft dude that it's like, gosh, I want suffering until I experience it. But I know the value of it because when it gets really hard, I think the biggest lesson for us also is to know that, right, we need something greater in our lives and ourselves. And when things get really hard and you're on that bike, it's a constant reminder that I need to look up. So that's a simple thing, chosen suffering, right? Just on a daily basis, elevate your heart rate, go for a walk, right? I mean, do something to get outside your comfort zone. Comfort, I think this world, we chase comfort. We want more free time, right? Everybody wants more free time, but free time can be not good for us, right? So I think that's just one thing that from a coaching standpoint, it's also, I want my team to see me suffering. Like I want them to see me riding at a level of watts greater than them, because example is our greatest teacher, and if I'm chirping at them to give more, and every time I'm supposed to give more, I give less, that's really not a great example. So I think it's just, I also want to live a long time. I love my kids. I love my grandkids. I want to see my grandkids have kids, so it's like the only way to do that is take care of yourself and suffer.
You mentioned a moment of tragic, unchosen suffering, and Coach, if you wouldn't mind, if you would just kind of go back to that day of February 16th with us. I think there's some audience members who could maybe perhaps relate if they've gone through anything similar, and I'd love to just delicately kind of go through that time of your life.
Sure. So, in general, right, my life was, you will yourself to it. You will yourself. I fell in love with something. Let's call it wrestling, or your marriage, or whatever. And you will yourself. So you just don't accept anything other than the way your mind envisions your life going. And I lived that way for 36 years. And for the most part, I controlled the things I could. And then you're 36 years old, which is what I was on February 16th of 2004 when we lost Teague. And this was right, the unthinkable, right? Like I thought there was a guarantee in life. There was a guarantee in life that I would pass before my children. That was just a rite of passage. It's a rite of life, because no one around me, like really, there were no instances in my life where I saw a father lose his child. So it wasn't even in the realm of possibility for me. So it was President's Day, February 16, 2004. Life was incredible. I laughingly say, I grew up in a home with no air conditioning. So for anybody listening out there that was born in a home with window fans, and for anybody that doesn't know what a window fan is, it's just a fan in the window. So if it's 90 out, it's blowing 90 in. So things in life were so good. Again, I was 36. I was married, had 4 kids. We had air conditioning, which we toasted to. Then we moved into the house at air conditioning. Life was, we had to put a pool in the backyard. My team was doing well. Things were incredible. I took the kids to work that day. My 4 kids to work that day. School's out on President's Day, no school. We had an amazing day. We're coming home from, I was about a 30-minute commute. I was coaching at Hofstra University at the time, small Division I program out of Long Island, about 30 miles from Manhattan, about 8 miles from the Atlantic Ocean, from Jones Beach. We're on our way home. It was a long day. I remember looking in the rearview mirror. This is just like takes me back to I can remember all the details of the day. I'm looking in the mirror in the back. My son, Teague, is leaning on Jake's shoulder, who's his older brother, right? We have 3 boys and a girl. And I remember just thinking, what an amazing day. How blessed. What a great life. We get home, dinner's on the table. We sit down. We have a great dinner. And then one of them is voted to shower first. Probably should have showered before dinner. That's not the way we did it. So Teague's sitting next to me. We voted him to shower first. He's pissed. He gets out. He was 5. He gets up from the table, starts running around. My wife's chasing him. We're all laughing. Get him, get him, get him. She's kind of hidden behind a wall. I'm watching this. I'm sitting at the head of the table. I'm watching this. And I see when she picks him up, I mean, this isn't like, I'm not, this is just fully the way I recall it. Nothing is embellished to be dramatic. There's nothing dramatic about this, other than just the truth about the situation. And when she picked him up, I remember being overwhelmed by something. Something hit me. And I'm watching her and I'm thinking, man, his head's dangling. That's odd. My 2 dogs are jumping up trying to get him. We're still at the table, except for my wife and Teague. She walks into the back of the house and starts screaming. We jump up. I run to the back of the house. I grab Teague. He's not breathing. His eyes are rolled in the back of his head. I take him. I put him on the coffee table. I start doing 911. And the unthinkable was unfolding. She called 911. I was, working on him. At one point, I heard the ambulance coming. I picked him up and I ran about 100 yards up the street to get him in the ambulance sooner. But it wasn't the ambulance. It was a cop car. I ran him back into the house, kept breathing in his mouth, kept pumping on his chest. And about 12 minutes after he passed out, the ambulance, the EMTs, came in my house, ran some tests on him, code blue. We had a neighbor come over, and then my wife and I followed the ambulance to the hospital. It was, the toughest, I would say that the toughest part, there's so many tough parts of losing a child, which is unthinkable. And I have lots of friends now who have, because some have read the book and then we reach out. And, I know for me, after we lost Teague, I only wanted to talk to people who lost a child. You get in this grief phase where I only wanted to understand what it was like and how long it took you to be okay again. Because, all the things I willed myself to, I couldn't will myself to save him. And that's when you get on your knees. Wrestling never brought me to my knees. I lost big matches. My team had lost big matches. I lost in the national finals. I had some tough losses in high school. But I never remember, dropping to my knees and curling in a ball and begging for mercy. Begging, please help me. And when you're at the end of yourself, you find God. And I think that's really what happened. I was at the end of myself. I didn't know where to turn. So you look up. And I started to study, where he could be. That drive home from the hospital back to my house. And you have 3 children at the house that love their brother dearly. And they're thinking I'm coming home with them. When my wife and I in the car, we really never prayed together in our at that time 11 years of marriage. And I'm holding her hand and we're praying like you can't believe, God help us, please help us. And we get home, we walk in the house, and we didn't walk in the house. We pulled in the driveway, and the 3 kids came running outside, and they, I opened the car door, and Jake asked a common sense question, which is, where's Teague? And the crazy thing was, I was 36 leading people, and I didn't know. I just knew that he wouldn't be at dinner the next night. I didn't know where he was for sure. I knew he was gone, but what happens to us? So you pour into it, right? I poured into that. I poured into, where could he be? What are the possibilities? And it took me on a wild journey. It took me on a journey that has transformed my life, and I think a lot of people's lives, because of the intensity that I put into, not, whether God is real or not, but just truth, right? It's the pursuit of truth. Like, what are the options? Because they're both really extreme, right? One is, there's this creator that made everything, right? And he loves us, and he's designed life. And the other option is chance, that all the beauty we see is here by a random explosion. And both are so extreme, So I started to dig in, took that piece of paper, on the left side, God, on the right side, no God. And I read and I read and I read and I listened and I studied. And at the end of my journey, about 6 months after intense learning, it became pretty clear to me that God is real, that there is absolutely a God, that there's plenty of facts to move that way. And then we just got to decide to follow them and decide to let them into our life. So, that was really where, unchosen suffering transformed me, transformed me. And a lot of people turn to a lot of things when they're hurting, and for me and my wife, we had the blessing of 3 other children that wanted to live, right? I mean, that wanted to have a normal life as much as they could. And a lot of times, right, as you know, probably in your studies and speaking with people, marriages break up, right? Children kind of become orphans because the grief is so intense. Like, the grief is so intense that you lose sight of things that matter as much as his life mattered, right? And life just crumbles, but that didn't happen for us. And I can honestly say that the only rationale for me is, yes, there's a lot of great people around me, but I would say God, for me, in my story, God entered my home, he entered my heart, and when he entered my heart, things were a lot better.
Coach, I appreciate you going back and opening that up and processing that. I know that can be difficult to do, but I think what it does is it impacts so many people that are tuning in. I'd be curious to know, Coach, what did grief teach you that no coach or mentor ever could?
Yeah, man. What did grief teach me? Man, when it taught me it's okay. It's okay to grieve. That it's normal. It's a normal process. It's real. I mean, obviously me and probably any other father listening in would gladly jump in front of a car for their child. It taught me that I can't do it alone. For sure, that you need to lean on people, that connection matters. It taught me to openly communicate my emotions, that sharing your emotions doesn't make you weak. Taught me strength. I mean, grief taught me strength right in the back end of grief. And grief taught me there's stages to it. There's disbelief at first, and there's just mourning. And mourning's fine. Mourning's good. Mourning's necessary. And I mourned for a long time. Made me stronger. On the back end of grief, there's an incredible strength. Grief is, there's a really good book out by Jim Murphy called Inner Excellence. I'm not sure if you've heard of it or looked at it yet, or by Jim Murphy. And I had him do a podcast with my team, and he's got a philosophy. One of his philosophies is that all things work for my good. Now, if someone shared that philosophy with me on February of 2004, I would have thought, that's about the dumbest thing I've ever heard. If someone had shared that with me, right, the day, after I lost in the national finals, I would have said, that's an odd thing. But there's an amazing thing that time teaches. Or I just had a brutal car accident where, only by the grace of God and the mighty Subaru am I alive. Subaru saved me. My guys make fun of me for driving. I'm like, listen, my guys, you have a belief system. You buy things for a reason. Everything you buy is a belief system behind it. And my belief system was reliability and durability. That's why I bought it. And it saved my life. And God willing, I had grandchildren. So I wanted to transport them in something that's safe.
I'd be curious to know, from a leadership standpoint, whether it's a parent or a leader or a coach, what does it look like to lead someone who is walking through suffering?
What makes me a better coach is the fact that I endured a lot of discomfort. I understand what you're experiencing. It is empathy is a gift, but empathy is harder if you haven't walked through it yourself. So one, if you have a coach, right? If I'm coaching and I've been through the loss of a child, brutal car accident, like, experiences just make us more relatable. And I think as a coach, walking through it with somebody, it's not being standoffish and it's being vulnerable. Like there's so much strength in being vulnerable. Listen, I went through it and it wasn't easy, and I suffered, and I made mistakes in my grief, right? I did things I wish I didn't do, quite frankly. So one is being relatable. And then just obviously the more experiences we have, the more we can relate to people. Now, if you haven't been through it, like I'll give you an example of what God taught me through this accident. So I'm in this car accident. I'm 56 now. This car accident happened when I was 55. Anxiety is something that I would have considered up to 55, something very hard for me to relate to. Listen, you're experiencing anxiety over what? It's not real. Like your anxiety, you're building something into your mind that it isn't real. You're manifesting it. Until I dealt with anxiety after this car accident, an immense amount of anxiety. I'm having a heart attack. I can't breathe. I thought my legs were going to explode because the nerves were so beat up. I thought it was coming to my heart. And once I've experienced anxiety, now I'm a person that can relate to people with anxiety. It is real. It is real. What you are experiencing is absolutely, in your world, absolute truth. So I hope struggle on people. I hope struggle, because struggle is the great teacher, right? And if you're leading people and you haven't struggled, right, the goal is to do everything you can to empathize with them and try to put yourself in that situation. For me, a lot of the student athletes that I work with and wrestle for me, I mean, I really have been through quite a bit, and it makes me understand what they're going through. So the lessons for me in all this was, God, it's not why me, right? Because listen, we could all say why me, right? Everybody deals with something where it's a why me. And I think the power of God is always, what are you trying to teach me? What am I to learn through this? How am I to be stronger through this? And one of the lessons for me through this accident was the reality of anxiety. So it's just trying to relate. It's not judging, it's asking questions. It's just listening sometimes, and it's just really being good at listening more and asking really good questions, that move them into a direction that will help them.
I had a gal on my podcast one time. It was a powerful conversation. She talks about counting your Mondays, and based off of just statistics, you go on her website, you type in how old you are, and it'll give you back a number of predicted how many Mondays you have left, just based on statistics and just a general. And this number stares you right in the face, coach. It's like, oh my gosh, it just gets much more crystallized on how many Mondays we have left. And the kind of the tongue in cheek about Mondays is most people complain about Mondays, but then you see it when you notice, hey, I only have 5,000 Mondays left, whatever it is. She taught me this phrase about being brushed by death, and how people that are brushed by death, they see life much differently. You were brushed by death with Teague. You were brushed by death a year ago when you were in the car accident. How has your outlook changed being brushed by death in two different directions?
Yeah. So life for me, I'll say, because life for me as a young person was incredible. Like not everybody has the gift that I had, of a loving home, an honest home. There was no gossip. I don't remember anything like that. There were 7 kids growing up in a home where there was joy, there was love, there was connection, right? We had dinner every night. We never went out to eat, right? We never went out to eat. So I grew up with this sense of really loving life and loving people. Like I saw the good in people. When you grow up in a home or an environment where there's a lot of I don't know, a lack of kindness, your soul can move toward this angry place where I don't see any goodness. I don't feel any kindness. And I felt it. So I've always been one to really love people and love life. Now, fast forward, I'm 56 now, and all of my children that are living, I have three living, and one's in heaven, right? I notice in them a vigor for life, and to your point, they witnessed death, right? One was 11, one was 9, the other was 3. They witnessed someone that didn't get to live their life. So I think in all of us, in our house, there's this sense of there are no guarantees. There are absolutely no guarantees. And to embrace every day, and it's not, listen, this isn't this like this easy. This is like, I don't know, days where I wake up and I'm a little grouchy, but typically I'm pretty happy when I wake up. I'm a happy person in the morning. My wife needs about an hour, her tea. She needs to chill out, get some news in her, and just I'm up and I'm like, hey, let's have fun. But it takes that experience of just a reminder of how precious life is. I have a really good mentor in my life named Chet Scott who talks about our I love tos. And this isn't in the book at all, but it's part of our I love tos are just so critical. And that's what you're talking about. It's like, look, if the only thing in life I do are my I need tos, man, that is a tough life. Like you have to get your I love tos in writing, and then you've got to get them into your calendar. Because certainly, I learned a lesson that my life, I mean, there aren't a lot of really strong explanations for why I'm alive right now, hitting that tractor trailer at full speed, parked in my lane. There aren't a lot of explanations for it. The Subaru was strong. God is real. And it has, as much as I've enjoyed life, I went through some tough times through it, got really depressed. But on the back end of it, it's like, let's not leave anything undone, And even someone, I would say like me, who's a pretty happy person in general, that enjoys life, like it was a lesson for me. This brush with death has taught me that even another reminder that enjoy life, man. Do the things that you love.
I love the I love tos, write them down, but then also make sure they're on your calendar. It's one thing to know them. It's another thing to write them down. It's another thing to put them in your calendar. Coach, what are some of your I love tos?
Yeah, man, I love this. I love to play with my grandkids. I love to do my grandkids. So Sunday night, call my son and his wife, my daughter-in-law, when do we got the kids this week? Because I want to clear my calendar. On that day, I want to be with them. I love to climb mountains, right? I love one of my bucket list things is swimming the cleanest lakes in the country. I've been to 3 already. I love church. I love worship music. So like that earpiece, you got an earpiece, and looks like, you typically see me. I wear an earpiece pretty much all the time. And I play Christian rock. I play Stephen Furtick music, elevation worship, Third Day, Will Reagan. I played, I believe, 62 times in a row.
Brooks
on the
and
way
Dunn?
home from Brooks and Dunn, brother. You got it, man. I believe by Brooks and Dunn, 62 times in a row. I left Northern Michigan. I was driving home. The 62nd time it played, I was pulling in my driveway. Because it's just the power too, right, of filling your mind with uplifting things. And if you don't fill them with uplifting things, then we know what you'll fill them. Negative things, because negative, right, is the positive. It's like 9 is the 1. So you have to actively pursue the positive. So those are, I love just sitting hanging with my wife. Like I love my wife. She's awesome. I love watching the kids with my wife. Like I talk to people now that maybe their marriages are struggling. I'm like, listen, you stay together, you fight, because there's nothing greater than driving with your wife to your grandchildren's place and picking them up and playing with them side by side. Like you stick together, like make it work. You fight for it, because the grass is always greener on the other side, but it's not. So I love wrestling. I love biking. I love sweating. I love ice cream. I have ice cream every damn night.
Oh man, that's so great, Coach. I want to turn the metaphorical page and talk a little bit about coaching. In 2015, you had the chance to lead a team to win a national championship. A question I love asking coaches who have won the big one is, what did winning a national championship teach you about you?
I'll tell you what. The night, so we won it in 2015. I'm actually really good at second. I'm a lot better. Been second 6 times. So I'm really good. If you want to be second, come wrestle for me. But this particular year, right? We won it. It was amazing, right? It was amazing, right? It's a lifelong dream. I mean, here's the thing too. In all of my years of competing, when I list out the goals that I had, I mean, I could say that as a competitor or a coach, my sophomore year, I met my goal in high school. And in 2015, we met our goal. That's it, right? So in saying that, if life is only about winning titles, then you're going to live a pretty sad existence, right? There's got to be more to it than that. It taught me it's a lot of fun. Like winning feels good, right? It taught me, but more than anything. So that night, I was saying that night we win. We're on ESPN. One of my student athletes, Logan Stever, became the fourth person to win 4 national titles that night. So we had the joy he was experiencing of doing something that, I say, if we did walk on the moon, more people have walked on the moon than have won 4 national titles, right? That's how hard it is, right? This is a difficult thing. So, that night, we're on ESPN. Logan Stever's celebrating. He's being interviewed, celebrating his 4th title. The whole team is huddling on the center of the arena. There's 22,000 people there. Maybe there's 500,000 watching on TV, and we're hoisting this thing up in the air, this trophy up in the air. Fast forward, that was around 10 o'clock at night. 6 a.m., everyone's on the bus. We're heading back to Columbus from St. Louis, Missouri. We're on the bus. I'm sitting next to the trophy. I'm kind of shining this thing already, hugging this thing up. 6-hour drive. We get back to Columbus. There's some people in the parking lot. They give us a hurrah, hurrah. I jump in my car. I head home. My family didn't leave at 6 a.m., so they're not at home. I pull into my house. My dogs were being watched by a neighbor. I walk in the house and I got to let the dogs out. They don't want to go out. It's the end of the winter now. We're in the end of March. The snow had all melted. They don't want to leave that. They will not go outside. So I'm like, it's cold, get out. They wouldn't go out. Well, I look in the yard and there's a winter full of dog crap in the yard. The snow had melted and the dog crap had surfaced. I go back inside. I change my shoes. I get a plastic bag. I get a shovel. And for the next 2.5 hours, I'm cleaning dog crap. So the image I want, right, people to remember is you go from this to this. And I think the thing it taught me more than anything is that it is a noble cause to pursue excellence. There are a few things more noble than to be what God intended us to be. And that is our challenge, right? That is absolutely our challenge in life. And the lesson is embrace all things in life. Like you're going to have these moments of incredible joy and happiness. But you'll also the next day find the good in the mundane. Just find the good in it. I think that's one of the great lessons for me as a coach, that I'm back at it. And at the end of the day, how have you grown as a human being and the experiences you've had? I think that's for me one of the big lessons. You're never too high, never be too low. You're never too, so I don't know. I'd say that's certainly something that, winning's taught me how to win too, right?
Of course.
Right. I mean, there's a lot of lessons and good lessons in it, but I think ultimately it's let's find winning's taught me. Let's find the power in the simple things. Let's find the takeaways from a good performance, right? There are things that can be celebrated that are the world of you far less important, that seem probably more than winning a national championship, right? There's just so much to embrace. There's so many good things to enjoy as a coach, because only one team wins a year.
You talk about 30 years coaching college wrestling. I want to reference one of my favorite parts in the book. If you're listening on audio, you won't be able to see this, but I've got this thing bookmarked and I've got highlights all over. I want to just read my favorite passage on page 99, and then coach, if we could just break this down, I think there would be a lot of insight for people listening. So 30 years coaching some of the best athletes in the world. I think something you probably get asked a lot is, what are the commonalities of the best of the best? I think this paragraph really exemplifies exactly that. It says this: I've coached two student athletes who have won world titles and many who won NCAA titles and earned All-American honors. There was so much to learn from them. Each of them was process driven. Winning wasn't their primary focus. Controlling what they could was their main focus. They did the right things consistently. They learned feelings can't always be trusted. The mind must keep feelings in balance. This is critically important. Our emotions often speak the easy way into our minds and whisper to us that we're tired and don't feel well. These emotions play on our psyche. Basing any decisions in life on mere feelings is a recipe for a mess. Your initial thoughts as I read that back to you.
Yeah, I mean, it's just a reminder, right, that I see and live with on a daily basis. I mean, the student athletes that really fall in love. I know a lot of coaches talk about this because it's just true, and it's like, well, they fall in love with the process, right? With the process of improving. When I left Syracuse and drove out to University of Iowa to be under this legendary coach, I remember the training sessions like they were yesterday, and they were brutal. And I thought I was ready for them, and I wasn't. And I physically couldn't hold up. And if I measured whether I would stay or not on whether I won or not in practice, I would have left. If you watched, if you were in that room and you watched it, you would say, "There's no way he'll make it." I got beat unmercifully, but there's something inside people, the people, there's something inside a human being that when they have a deep love for it, a deep, deep love for it, they'll continue to just come back. Right? That's the lesson. Just show up, come back the next day, and simply give everything you possibly can. How much do you give? Everything you can. And these people that we're talking about, right? The Stevers and the Snyders and the Jaggers and the Palmers and the Humphreys and the Martin and all these guys, and this guy Jesse Mendez I have now, and Sammy Sasso, all these elite people I've been around, they really fall in love with the work. It's a beautiful thing when you see someone work, and there's no difference, right, between work and play. They just love it. And yeah, it's a formula that needs, as a parent, helping your child fall in love with something is the most powerful thing you can do.
Say more
You know,
about
it's,
that.
yeah, it's the most powerful. It's more about learning and self-mastery, right? I had a kid at camp. We're in the middle of summer camps too, and I had this kid come up to me at camp after camp, and he said, "Hey, I want to ask you something." He said, I promised my grandfather I'd win a state title. And I feel like I'm letting him down."
Wow.
And I said, where is your grandfather? And he said, "Well, he passed." And I said, "Okay, so he's watching me." Here's the first thing I would do. The first thing I would do is I would apologize to him for promising something. You can't just say, "Pops, I promise you something that is out of my control." Like winning and losing is out of our control. So the first thing, right, is understanding what truly is in our control. And here's what I want to tell you, Grandpa. You get on your knees beside your bed and you tell Grandpa, "I love you dearly. I meant what I said. I misspoke. But here's what I'm going to do." Because what the kid was telling is every time he goes in the mat, he freezes. He freezes when he's competing. He's great in practice. I'm great in practice when I go in a match. So typically it's right, competition anxiety, right? You're dealing with something that is locking you. It's locking you. So you've got to prescribe the right formula to get unlocked. And the right formula is only controlling the things you can. So you're going to tell your grandpa that I promise you something I shouldn't, and that And I'm going to promise you something I can from this point forward. You're going to see your grandson try so ungodly hard. I'm going to give an effort, a superhuman effort every time I wrestle. And that's something you can control, right? I said, you could have the Russian world champion can move into your district. Now you've promised something that you won't beat me Russian, no matter what. So it's really, and for dads out there, I'm a father of a young man that wrestled, and I would sit at the top of the bleachers. He would never hear me yell. I would sit at the very top of the bleachers in the corner with my video camera. I would film the match. He would wrestle, and I know what he would do at the end of the match. He would find me in the bleachers. He'd come to the top of the bleachers, and what would he say? He'd go, Dad, what do you think? And what do you think I said? I'd hand the video camera and say, what do you think? Right? So just being as a dad, they want your love more than anything in their life. They want your love and they want your belief. They want to know you believe in them. Those are the most powerful things, right? That we can, and they want your authenticity, right? They want that you're authentically sharing with them. So yeah, it's just that. It's just asking them questions and being there for them.
Coach, I couldn't agree more. I'm very process driven. It's one of the things I talk about in my keynotes and my consulting work. And it seems like that's really one of the keys to success for being an athlete is to being process driven. I think it's also a huge component to being a successful coach is to be process driven and not be attached to the outcome. Instead, focus on the process. What's your favorite strategy at Ohio State, being the coach you are? What's your favorite coaching strategy to be process driven? I'm trying to see if there's something that you do that my coaches listening in can be more process driven themselves, no matter what sport they're
in. Yeah, well, I think storytelling is just really important, right? So you go to your leaders in your team and you have them storytelling, you ask them questions. We have weekly leadership meetings where people share openly about, and listen, our leaders are open and authentic. Everything isn't always perfect, right? I've got a guy on my team right now who's a two-time reigning NCAA champion. He openly shares, listen, my mind drifted on this, right? And it's like, it gives everyone this sense of, oh, okay, you're relatable. So I think storytelling is really powerful. That's certainly one thing that I think, younger, less experienced, people can share. There's a process, right? There's a process of, if I took the daily, weekly, annual training plan of all my best guys, they look very similar, right? Over time, like success leaves clues, right? That saying, success leaves clues. And so let's pull out these commonalities of, listen, not every person's exactly alike, but there are a lot of similarities in the great ones. So let's pull them out. And then I go through that with my team of here's what, even things like that, even something simple like my best guys, if you're above 175 pounds in that range, they all got to run around a 5:30 mile. So I can quantify too. I can quantifiably say I've never had someone that can't run a 5:30 mile win the nationals. So if you're running 6:30, 6:45, listen, I'm just telling you that you might be the outlier. But what is the process that gets your mile time down to sub 5:30? Jesse Mendez is a 4:45. Right. So if you're under, 100, all my best lightweights can run like the wind. If I get a lightweight and I'm recruiting you, it's one of the first questions I ask a recruit. It's also, right, ties into the capacity to suffer. Right. If you can't run a 5:30 mile, you can't get used to suffering. And if you can't suffer, you have no chance. The inability to take yourself to an uncomfortable place automatically disqualifies you from having any chance of being successful. You have to be able to take yourself into deep waters. Right. The only way to take your opponent to deep waters is to drag them out there. Well, if you're not used to being dragged out there by yourself, you have a problem. Mm. So it's storytelling. It's facts. It's you fight fear with facts. Here are the facts. Can you attack each side of the body? On a scale of 1 to 5, you're a 3 on an attack. On a scale of 1 to 5, you're a 2 on the finish. These are areas that. So how are you going to solve that problem? Well, it needs time and effort. So 2 or 3 times a week, all my best guys come in one-on-one with a coach and they get very detailed practice lessons. So, those are just some things. Just fight. You fight with facts, and you compile facts. Even like, if my kid was a running back, I would pull the data on the best running backs. Most of them were in ballet. almost all the elite ones ran hills. They ran short hills, right? I mean, you want to be a great running back, you need to be strong and physical and fluid. So, I think just painting a picture for them, because they don't know, right? The assumption that we can make as leaders is they know, and it's a terrible assumption to make. And for me, as a coach for 33 years, well, of course you knew that. Like if I'm thinking, well, I'm sure they know that. That's a flaw. They may not know that. Don't assume that they know what you know because you've been in it for 30 years. So, it's don't assume anything and walk them through what the process looks like.
I love it. So if we're just going to go through these here again, kind of your three keys based off this passage on page 99. The first thing you said was that they're process driven. Second was they control what they can control, and that's their main focus. They don't worry about winning. The third one, I'd love to just open this door as we kind of close down today. You talk about that our emotions often speak the easy way into our minds. And so the best of the best that you've learned, they learn that feelings can't always be trusted. Can you open that up?
Yeah, man, that's pretty deep. That's pretty intense, because it's like, God, I'm listening. I'm listening. What are you trying to tell me? And it's like, is it really your voice? Like, is it really your voice? Should I trust this or not trust this? So it's a finicky space to be in. When do you trust? When do you not trust? And look, right, we have people in society trusting things that are just their feelings. And from an outsider's perspective, you would clearly say, listen, man, don't trust that. Like, do not trust that. But they are. They're believing their feelings are dead on and accurate. So I think we manage that with a serious, with a serious group of people we trust around us. So that's one thing, right? Your checks and balances. Like, I'm feeling this, and you got to have the courage to run it by people. And when we speak it, sometimes when we speak, it's like, wow, how was I even thinking about doing that? When you hear it. So I think having a network of people that you really trust in your life is so critically important. I am surrounded by so many people. And then it's having the courage to share. Here's what I'm thinking. Here's what I'm feeling. What do you think? Before we decide without asking. So it's really having the courage to present some of the feelings you're experiencing with people. Because look, if I acted on my feelings 4 months after this car accident, I wouldn't be here. I had thoughts that were unlike anything I'd ever experienced. Was it the pain? Was it the drugs? Was it from the concussions? Was it from the meds? What was causing me? Was it from a lack of being able to sweat? Because we know now, right, that muscles secrete healing into our brain, right? We know the scientific facts everywhere. And how could someone that had such a spice for life not want to live? If I trusted my feelings, I would have jumped off a building. So what did I do? I told everybody I love, here's how I'm thinking. I need to be protected. You need to protect me right now, because here's what I'm thinking. I don't want to be left alone. I want to be watched over. And now that's an extreme case, right, of your feelings being trusted. But there's other things. There's simple things, daily basis things. When do we trust? When do we not trust? And the thing is, so that's one thing, is people around you. The other thing is being a reader, being a constant learner, reading truth. Like we have to have some sense of right from wrong. Where do you get that? Well, the scripture is a really good place, but also being a reader, being someone that is a constant learner, to say this clearly makes no sense. I've read about hundreds of people, they would have never done that. So I think reading and the consumption of knowledge, is really good for us. I said this earlier too, but just filling your brain with the right stuff. Mm-hmm. You're going to feel your feelings are going to be more in line with reality if you're filling your mind with truthful, positive stuff. So yeah.
I think that's a great
before you
lesson,
shake
Coach.
hands.
Something that I learned
Yeah.
from Dr. Jim Larry, a sports psychologist. One of the things he taught me that it just still rings true to me. I'm a new father too, and one of the things that he said to me that I'll never forget is that as coaches and as leaders, your outside voice becomes your athlete's inner voice. Your outside voice
Mm.
becomes their inner voice. And we know that the inside voice is the most powerful voice that you have. And when it comes to taking advice or listening to feelings, it's typically going to be from our own self first before we look into the outside for advice. And so I think that was a huge takeaway for me when we talk about like listening to your feelings, surrounding yourself with people who are going to feed good, good ideas and good thoughts into you. I think as the coach, parent, and leader out there listening, it's such a great reminder that your outside voice becomes their inside voice. So be extremely careful about the words that you're saying, whether you're coaching or parenting, because it ends up going through this filter and sticking with them. So making sure it's working for them and not working against them.
Listen, it's so powerful. I mean, that's a great way of saying it. It's so powerful. And then it's even who you surround your kids with. You drop
Right.
them off, you got this person screaming in their face and yelling and screaming. And even when as a parent, when they come home from practice, we have a rule, 4-1. So we have video in our room. Every practice is filmed in high definition. Post practice, if I'm going to send something to a student athlete, I send them 4 good things to 1 bad. Right? Like four things. This was really good. This was good. This was good. Let's look at this one. Here's a position you're in this position 3 times and you didn't get the points in the position. What do you think? What can you work on? What skills can you do to master that position? And so just not being the parent, the coach, the one that, well, that stunk. Like that, like you said, that becomes your inner voice. That stunk becomes your inner voice. So being really careful. I think it's at least 4-1. I said earlier, 9-1 negative to positive. We lunge toward the negative as humans. That's why I mean, news channels like controversy, right? Because we pursue it. Our mind craves it. So we got to learn to teach it. Hey, there's nothing like a good old fashioned Hallmark movie, man. Find the love.
Well, Coach, what have you learned? What has been the result of that 4-1? That's such a great strategy for coaches tuning in. What have you seen as a result of that strategy?
And it's just a relationship. It's a relationship. I want them to know I care. I want them to know I believe in them. Right? Belief is so powerful. Um, I want their attention. It's like it doesn't matter. So one, right. In speaking with someone, timing is so important. We say you gotta be facing me, right? Like look, you're married, I'm married. Listen, if I'm having an argument with my wife and she starts walking away and I'm still talking, like it's not going anywhere. Like her back is facing me. She's not listening. And every word you say just makes it worse. So stop talking. Same thing with a student athlete, right? It's like when are they facing you? Like when are they forgot? When are they really? And so it's when to share and then what to share. And if you start with negative, it's like, dude, I'm not listening to you anymore. It's like Jesus. Jesus was the perfect combination, which is why he has so many followers today, of trust, of truth, and love. Right? Too much love, and it's like, hey, dude, you're patronizing me. Stop. Too much truth, and you pissed me. I'm not listening to you anymore. And he just had this way about him. And I always think about, right, the goal is to refine myself to be more Christ-like, right? That's the end goal for me, right? He was perfect. I'm not. I want to be as close to that as I possibly can. So how did he teach? He told stories. He was a truth and love person. 100% truth, 100% love. And when you're in a conversation with somebody that's sharing that way. You know it. You can sense it. You can feel it. And when you're in a conversation with someone that's appeasing you. And when you're in a conversation with someone who doesn't give a dang about you, just wants to talk. Like we just have a sense about it. So, the 4-1 has been, we have a team of people that know we respect them, right? And they're more likely to look your way when they feel that love and that truth.
4-1 for truth and love. I love it. Hey, coach, as we close down, this is the Coaching Beyond the Scoreboard series. I've picked specific coaches to be a part of this. I think this is something you believe in, you exemplify that you're trying to have a transformational impact. It's not just about X's and O's. It's not just about the national championship. In a sense, that's what Coaching Beyond the Scoreboard really is. I would love to hear from you as we close down. One, what does it mean to coach beyond the scoreboard? And two, how do you do it?
So beyond the scoreboard, I'll give you an example in my life. I mean, we talked a little bit offline. I'm an efficient, right? One of my guys asked me to marry him. Now I've married maybe 13 of my student athletes, right? So it's a lifelong relationship. I got your back. You're going to go through things. I'll be there for you. Way beyond, right? Wait. It's transformational. You said it a minute ago. It's a transformational relationship. It's not transactional. You're done. Thanks for the points. Thanks for winning us that team trophy. Good luck. So it's just being in their life. It's being there for them. It's staying in a relationship with them. Like I said, a week ago, I married Colin Moore, who was a 3-time Big Ten champ for us. Wanted me to marry him. Went down to Charleston, South Carolina. So it's in the process of coaching them. You're with them and they'll fight hard for you if they know how much you care, right? So it's just making sure they know you care. They had surgery. You call them after, you go see them. You talk about the hardships you had in your surgeries, and you kind of calm them. So it's just being there for them far long after the wrestling match.
One of the
What was
fun
the
ways
other thing you said?
yeah, just
Yeah,
you nailed it.
the
Just
fun,
the ways
yeah,
that you do it. I think one of
right.
the fun strategies that I've found is if you know you're a transformational coach by how many wedding invitations you get in your mailbox in the summer. It's just a kind of a fun tongue in cheek, and it's true, right? Because
It is true.
they want you to be a part of their lives. That's kind of a fun way to do it. Coach, this was so much fun. I
Yeah.
could talk to you for a long time. I told you off air, man, researching you has been such a gift. I have become a better person, a better man, a better Christian because of my research on you and having this conversation. So I want to just thank you for the impact. You've got a new Buckeye fan, of course. How can my listeners best support you, coach, and your program?
Yeah, yeah. Well, if you're in town, catch a match, check our schedule out, come see the Bucks wrestle. If you're into the NIL space, reach out. We'd love to talk to you about supporting the Bucks, and of course, always pray for us, man. Pray for that we're walking in line with the things that that our belief system is directly in line with our actions.
Coach, thank you for your time. Thank you for your wisdom, your authenticity, and your vulnerability. You are truly one of a kind. Thank you.
Thanks, man. Great to be with you. Appreciate it.